Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Anissa Damayanti. Here I will explain about my presentation language uses. Language uses. This chapter contains description of the language use and a functional explanation of language. Brown and Television 1998 describe functional explanation as learn and blur. Function in specified C context also sent in the attempts made to identify how words are used in particular defines so as economic or law to express disciplines specifies a C concept. Speech as concept by X meaning the interaction between hotel staff and the customer at hotel reception. The research identify the speech as frequently to apologize and the to report speech as are a key concept in the finds of use a particular linguistic in the context. Had 1992 remedying meaning can be contrasted to semantic meaning. Semantic meaning is the sum of the address. It's really let can be understood at two level at arithmetic level used by a ghost at a dinner party. It's my functional. Generally the present responsible for phrase generating intense in the pragmatic meaning was the philosopher Austin Thomas 1995. Austin was interested in the fact that people. He also noted that people manage to communicate effectively with the linguistic relationships available to them. Thomas 1995. Effect of the address of the listener, the distress, despise, and the gives apologies for the are indirect. The meaning that is the implied do not match. Thomas 1995. Therefore, alternative indirect means are used. Research one phrase of the speech as besides research in ESP has process on the identify canyon of the speech aids that occur in a target situation. For example, Sullivan's explanation of the authentic recording of the transaction between pilots and the air traffic sea controllers at the nearby airports reflect that request a crown verticality. That book pragmatic in the language teaching developed this topic. There is an conceivable body of research showing that non-native speaker different from native speaker in the use of the speech aids. For a race of different pairs, non-native speaker can differ in kinds of speech chats. Investigation of student use of the speech chats. Inauthentic use more rejecting at research so that native and non-native speaker can differ in the kinds of semantic formulas they use when making speech aids. As the rigid suggestion made by an African non-native speaker in the academic setting as means student requests in the meeting with university faculty. The study aims to find out how students meet requests and the difficult non-native speaker student experience in this. A number of requests were made during change the topic of projects. Part of the study had a socio-pragmatic focus. For example, only one of the native speaker recorded the non-native speaker use more hints than one non-native speaker requesting a grand chance his Synod mark is very low. Application ideas about speech aids and the reference functional syllables cuts with other research has shown that despite high level of grammatical competence, non-native speaker may still have difficulties in the communicating because of the lack of ability to express speech edge. Opportunity, Broadly Halling, 1990, D. Thomas, 1993. This may occur because the opportunity, whether and in what way speech at focus interaction leads to, for example, a study of the treatment of the complement speech aids in the research findings on the speaker often presentation of the speech aids in the teaching material shown in the fee. These include expressing opinions. These HR functions are the text for the student is to place the 20 linguistic religion forms into the opportunity box that its speech aids can be released by a number of the from students then are required to produce a diagram of the role play around this speech aids. Speech aids event involving this aids the material focus the learners genres 1991 that investigates the use of the activity and the basic from in the journal articles in the astrophysics. The study found that the communicative purpose of the readers regulated the ways language was used in the text that occurs in the particular communicative lesson. 1999 the community in genres and that explains its from and the fridge of language use the Lanyu Fans 1994 outlook on the words and explanation of phenomena clown and the clown 1995 regions that group so as the learns in France accents the ESL teaching community and US and as confused or illegible. Various genre analysis and projects to genre analysis are now seen as extending on context and the community in which the genre appears in US language is not just a means of self-expression of those community interaction or thus stretches products reproduce and modify it as individuals participate and draw on the rules of play for those practices. Meeting to generate the substance and form of the documents or instruction. They also in effect reinforce and sustains the legitimacy of those rules. They occur, but also they help constitute and speed those contexts in the needs of the community. Deadly Evans 1994 sentence and context, but they are not binding. Thus, there is potential for genders based on a synthesis of a number of the levers. Theoretical orientation, including guidance structure theory. The first principles are genders are dynamic relationships from that are developed in. They serve to give the community coherence and meaning. Genres can over time in the response to our knowledge of genres is derived from and embedded in our participation in the communicative activities of daily professional life from and the contextuality of the structure as whether on the general roles to agents in professional research communities interaction in the genres used in the target communities is seen as a way ESP can help range gains effects into those communities. Article introduction and sales layers and their role in the group and the communities that creates and use them, which it has emerged genres bands studies have been widely used in the research in specifically including research into experimental scientific identical canon of the genres used by a specifically see community article introduction. The right hand column show the moves and the step that slows found typically occurs in this genre. The moves are action text to activity community propose collectively. The moves accomplish the overall community purpose of the genre. The steps are the options that different writers use to make that moves. That research article introduction comprehends a three-move pattern. The left-hand column shows procedure used in the slow approach, the text in the categories. Be that all I can say. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, I will continue to explain words used for discipline-specific meanings. The first there is concept. This type of description is concerned with word or structure choice. Which word or structures are commonly chosen and the meanings are used they have in specific disciplines, profession, or workplace environments. ESP courses have, in the past years, targeted the words and structures important in a given field. The premise underlying the approach was that although language used in a field, for example, science, is not different from general English, certain lexical items and structures would predominate by appearing more frequently. Duty and Evans, 1998, with the development of concordance software, it has become possible for researchers and teachers to scan in field-specific text, for example, textbook or research article from biology, to identify which structure and words occur that and co-occur most frequently. And next, There is research study conducted by Kierkegaard 1999 set out to identify words of particular importance for students of economics in an English medium university in Turkey. The study set out to identify a high-frequency lexical item in the text that students would encounter in their studies, and B, the meaning these items carried in the field of economics. The data for the study comprise a corpus of textbooks used by the students and journal articles related to economics. From this 75 high frequency or context word, non-grammar words were identified. And the following of from identification of these keywords, the study then to identify the shared frame of reference of this word. This involved finding the frequency of the significant collocates of the words, that is, the surrounding words the keywords were typically used with. From this collocation, Kierkegaard was able to establish the concept central to meaning in the economic community. And next is application. In the form application, this type of description, the word and structure carrying discipline-specific concepts can be seen in ESP teaching. The material focuses on how the word criteria is used in academic writing. A concordance of criteria is presented. Students are required to study the concordance and identify how it's used by finding patterns in the surrounding words. Eventually, the students are required to create their own piece of academic writing using criteria or other words focused on in the unit identification and analysis. And the last is summary from a previous explanation. This chapter examines different types of description of language use evident in ESP. One was description of the intention of individual speaker or writer, that is speech acts, and another was the analysis of conventionalized text types and formats in different discourse communities, or it called genres. And next, another was the description of why speakers and writers circumnavigate the terrain of interpersonal communication, that is social direction. The last description was of the words or structures used in a particular environment or field to express concepts specific to it. All these types of description focus on language from the outside in. That is, they are concerned with the regularities of repetition that occur in a language use. I think uh, that's all from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For next explanation will be explained by Inaba. Thank you. Back to moderator.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, now I will present question about questions for discussion and project. For the first, what links can you make between the language descriptions examined in this chapter and your own ESP teaching? Okay, here there's examples from the books. Which of the following statements do you think are correct? Tick your answer in the box. So much here. Examples from questions for discussions and project. And then the second is study a published course book oriented to one branch of ESP, such as English for Nurse or English for Academic Studies, to answer the following questions. For the first, is there evidence of a speech action based functional component to the syllabus, and if so, how is it organized? And the second, how realistic are the language exponents given for the various speech actions? And the third, what additional information about the use of the speech actions in the target environments could useful supplement the descriptions presented in this course book. And the third is, think of a group of ESP learners you might teach in the future. What writing genres will they need in their target academic, workplace, or professional discourse community? Devise a set of interview questions that you could use to interview inside members of that community to identify the genres they deem to be important. The questions too should aim to elicit views on the role the genres play, the communicative purposes to elicit views on the role the genres the genres play, and the expectation the discussed community has for them. And the fourth, in what ways could you encourage your own ESP or EAP learners to investigate writing genres in their specific fields? And the fifth, how important is it to teach socially motivated strategies and formulas in ESP? In your opinions, are politeness strategies and hygiene, icing and cake that is a non-essential items? And the sixth is, conduct a small-scale project to identify the concept associated with and use important words in one specialist area by following these steps. For the first, establish a corpus of the text used in a target environment. For examples, 5 texts written by members of one professionals of academic discipline. And the second, identify 5 high-frequency content words like non-grammar words in corpus. And the third is, investigate how these words are used by examining the surrounding uh, linguistic environment. Also, investigate the start frame of references of the items, the concept these words carry in the target environment by discussing them with inside members of the profession or discipline. And the next material is further reading. Peltridge in 2000 offers a general overview of different approach to analysis of language use. And then John in 22 says that presents an edited volume containing a weighting of perspective genre analysis, reports of empirical studies into genres in various contexts, and discussion of classroom clipboard classroom applications of genre-based approaches to language description.